Hello, or should I say, Puyo, and welcome to another Good Vibes Gaming discussion. I'm your host for today, Ash Paulson, and I am joined by my good friend and GBG co-founder, Derek Bittner, as well as our superstar art director, Daniel Alba, to discuss some of our favorite and some not-so-favorite Kirby games in anticipation of the impending release of Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Guys, how's it going?
I want to play Forgotten Land. Why is it not out right now? Future me, you
man,
suck for being able to play it.
Right? That demo, you guys, like, I already knew I was excited for this game, but that demo is everything I wanted it to be. And
it sells you so hard.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
The jury's still out, of course, in the full game. We don't know yet, but I have a hard time believing that, given how the demo's looking and playing, that the full game isn't just going to be 100% delightful. I'm so excited.
I'm so ready for that. I played that like the moment it came out, and I was like, this is there was so much that we didn't know about just in that one demo that they kept from us, and it's like, wow, there's a lot that's going to be in this game, isn't there? They're going to pack a lot in here.
Yeah, it all feels really good, and there's different tactics, and I don't know, it kind of makes me, I'll be honest, I'm most excited about the unknown true arena or true arena equivalent. Like, I want to see how hard they get in the 3D space. Like, how tough are we talking here? Because I got, obviously only first boss, but I got a little cocky about fighting that monkey, because he's not difficult.
Pretty easy boss. Even on, they call it wild mode, but even wild mode's pretty easy if you're used to action games, I think. And I'm curious to see if there'll be some sort of like true arena type thing, or like a boss rush that makes things very. And there probably will. Kirby in-game content does usually ratchet up the difficulty a bit, but we could probably just spend 45 minutes talking about how excited we are for Forgotten Land. But instead, we're going to be looking back on some of our favorite Kirby games that got us to this point, as well as some not-so-favorite Kirby games, and just kind of celebrate the pink puffball / Godslayer in general. And Derek, I want to start with you, man, because you and I have a long history going back together as fellow giant Kirby fans, and so but our opinions actually diverge a bit on what our favorite Kirby games actually are, or maybe at least our very favorite Kirby games. So I want to start things off with you. Looking back on the series, what has been one or two of the most impactful Kirby games for you?
Well, I'd say probably the most impactful Kirby game I've ever played is definitely Dreamland 2, because that was my introduction to the series. I don't know where I don't know where I got it. I don't know what family member got it for me or anything like that. I just happened to have Kirby's Dreamland 2 as a kid. Never got the 100% ending, because getting that one star drop, I think it was, and it was just like the way you had to balance all the powers. I was too young to understand how to do. It was tough. With the compilation they put out later for its 20th anniversary, I want to say, I did eventually beat it and go through that, but it's so delightful. How can you not love, Rick, Koo, I'm blanking on the fish. Right? Kine. Like blanking on Kine. So that's what got me into Kirby, but I didn't actually return to Kirby for quite a while, because I didn't grow up with an SNES. I didn't have an N64, even though I would see Kirby 64 and I want to play. I want to play it so bad. My return to the series was actually with Canvas Curse on DS.
Nice. I love that game.
Yeah,
nice.
That one took me a while, and then I started picking up as many of the games as I was going along, finding the ones I missed out on, and definitely enjoying those. But if you want to know my absolute favorite Kirby, that's Planet Robobot. It is
such a good game.
It is.
God, what a game.
The mini games are fun. The main game is fun. They found a way to balance the gimmick power this time around, so it was not just in certain sections or certain moments. It was applied at all times and can be used in very different ways. It felt like more of an extension of Kirby's powers than a gimmick. And the wonderful finale, the wonderful characters. It's it's so good. I love it. It blew me away, especially because I just declared Triple Deluxe to be when it came out my favorite, and then Planet Robobot comes along and is like, nope, this is even better.
And Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot both made excellent use of the 3DS's stereoscopic 3D. They were both just great looking games. They both had excellent soundtracks too, which is no surprise because it's Kirby. But yeah, Planet Robobot is one of my favorites too, just because it's essentially Mega Kirby X. It's like Mega Man X Ride Armors, but it's a Kirby game, and it's so cool in the way it, as you said, it enhances and complements Kirby's copy abilities, and that finale. Like Kirby does have a loosely, like flowing narrative. Like there's a loose continuity there. It's not ever that important to the series, but it's there for people who really want to dig in. And Planet Robobot is maybe one of the best examples in the series of genuine fan service for longtime Kirby fans.
Oh, there was so much fan service.
It's so cool. Like the identity of the final boss and what happens. It's such a great callback. But Daniel, I cut you off, man. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. I was just going off about I really enjoyed that game as well. Just what it did. And I should probably finish the game.
Oh my! You haven't seen the finale?
What? I haven't. No, I haven't seen the finale. I always hear about it, but
oh my god!
But I haven't gone on the route to the end. It was a game that I borrowed, and they needed it back, and now I gotta find the game again somewhere.
Oh, it's awful. You might have to go digital.
I know the core experience, but I know this ending is something that people always hype up a lot, and I need to see it for myself. So especially now with the 3DS shop closing, it kicked me in the gear. Like I need to experience the rest of this game.
Oh,
you really do need to. You got to go back and finish it, man, because it really is genuinely worth it.
It might have the best example of fan service, but I think Star Allies has the most examples of fan service.
Oh yeah,
I'll put it out there. Star Allies, little weak overall, bit let down coming off of Planet Robobot. But that DLC, all the playable characters, all the way they build off those playable characters, it's some of the best
very cool
fan service that you'll ever get in a game.
Yeah, I think Star Allies just kind of it suffered from just kind of series fatigue a little bit. Kind of starting with Kirby's Return to Dreamland, all of the mainline Kirby games from Return to Dreamland, Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, and then Star Allies felt a little bit similar. Obviously, Planet Robobot was the one that really diverged the most in a good way. But they, in general, just kind of felt a little bit similar, I think, to each other, just in their overall vibe and like the UI and such, and just their overall design.
It's like, here's the main game, here's a few extras that you unlock as you play through the main game. Yeah. Here's an arena, then the true arena. You got the formula.
Yeah, and I think... Yeah, and Star Allies just it finally started wearing a little bit thin, I think, and it's still a good game, just not a great one, and it felt like a little bit of a letdown. And I think especially, too, for me, and I know this isn't as much of an issue for you, Derek, but coming off of Planet Robobot and Triple Deluxe, which were both 60 FPS games, playing Star Allies at 30 FPS as a Kirby platformer just didn't feel quite right to me. I was like, this feels like I should be playing a 60 FPS game as a Kirby game, but it was still fun.
How do you feel about Forgotten Land being 30 FPS then?
That feels a bit different to me because it's a 3D game. I like 2D platform. I would prefer, of course, a 60 FPS experience, but there's something to me where with 2D platformers, 60 FPS feels a bit more important to me compared to something like Kirby and the Forgotten Land being 3D. And I think it was also just the perception. Like Star Allies was a nice looking game, but it wasn't a spectacular looking one, and it felt like the Switch, considering it can run something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 60, it feels like Star Allies should have been able to do that as well. But hey, I'm no game designer. I don't know. So I could be completely wrong on that. But Forgotten Land feels fine to me at 30 FPS in the demo. That didn't bother me whatsoever. Yeah, as I said, I'm just looking forward to that game so much, and the demo just only made the wait even harder. But Derek and I have been chatting for quite a bit. So Daniel, I want to switch gears and kind of talk to you for a bit now. What was your introduction into the Kirby series, and kind of what's your history with Kirby, man?
Okay, well, the first time I saw our little pink boy was in the N64 era. It was actually in Smash Brothers. That was the first time I ever heard of Kirby was. And then, because I owned a Super Nintendo, but I didn't have any Kirby games on that. I had a very limited amount since it wasn't my Super Nintendo. And then moving on to N64, my first experience was Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards, which I know people might not consider that anywhere near like the top Kirby game, but it's one of my favorites just because I think a lot of people's very some people's favorite Kirby game is the one that they started out with. And for me, it's Kirby 64, Crystal Shards. And that game, I really enjoyed like the characterization of characters. You could see all those cutscenes, and they have some of my favorite like original characters in this too, like Ribbon, your little guide, and Adeline, two characters who we didn't even see anymore until Kirby Star Allies, where you can actually play as those characters. But man, that game, it spoiled me because my first introduction to copy abilities was the fact that you can mix and combine two different copy abilities into like a whole combination. So like you have like electricity, where he's like this little sphere of electric, and then Cutter, where he's like turns into a boomerang that he throws off a piece of himself, which is still kind of disturbing.
Oh, it's very disturbing.
Now that I think about it. But then you combine the two, and then he has like a lightsaber, like a two-edged lightsaber that he just moves around like he's a little Jedi. And it was so cool to mix and match and see what could be what. And it became sort of a puzzle game as well, because in the environment, sometimes you would see like, oh, there's this one structure that's shaded and striped green and yellow, but that's your hint that you need to combine electricity and Cutter together and to find a crystal shard. And it was really cool to like play that sort of game. It was like a non 2D 3D like kind of pseudo 3D game, because
2.5D. Yeah
2.5. That's what I meant. Yeah, that kind of threw me off, because I thought when I saw screenshots, I thought this was a game where you could like move around in the world like we're getting with Forgotten Land.
Oh, I see.
But man, I really I love that game so much. It holds a special place in my heart. And dark ending. Dark final boss.
Dark final boss. Heck yeah. You gotta love Zero 2.
Favorite fights. One of my favorite final battle themes too. Actually, both Zero 2 and Miracle Matter, two of my favorite boss themes in any game ever. They're both.
Oh yeah.
That whole soundtrack, like even among Kirby soundtracks, I think Kirby 64 stands tall as one of the very best.
I think Kirby 64 in general still stands up to a lot of people as one of the best. It's short. It's not difficult, but there's something about it that that's very memorable, even to this day.
I think that was the first time you could control DDD as well.
I believe yes, I believe you're right.
Because in early screenshots of Nintendo Power, you could see early shots of DDD by himself and like Adeline by themselves, I think, and they were meant to be just playable on their own. But towards later in development, they just Kirby just kind of hopped on DDD's back and for certain sections, and there's just a lot of charm in that game. I really enjoy it. God, what else? It's funny how I look back and see all the little changes that were done for the game. Like one of the food items is a sandwich, but in the Japanese release, it's a rice ball. It's onigiri.
Oh, of course.
Which
is that's perfect.
It's just that whole era of replacing Japanese culture with American stuff.
Yeah. At least they didn't make it a donut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's so funny. It's so funny because DDD like eats Waddle Dee like eats a rice ball in one of the scenes, and it's just it's silly. Jelly donuts. That's right.
Jelly donuts. Yep. Eat your hamburgers, Apollo. That whole vibe.
Oh my god.
I look back on Kirby 64 really fondly, and I've only ever 100%ed it the one time, like back when I played it on N64, but I remember, and I don't know if it would be different now, but I remember it being actually pretty difficult to puzzle out how you need to get every crystal shard and combine all the different abilities without using a guide. And maybe it's not as hard as I remember.
No, I think if you went back now, I think it'd be a little bit more apparent. It's one of those things, like probably. Again, like in Dreamland 2, I had so much trouble as a kid, but you know the little ways that they're pointing to you in the right way.
Right.
Trust me, you'll be fine.
Yeah, everything's extremely color coded as far as like where hidden crystal shards are hiding. I think the only one that I had trouble with was like there was like a light bulb one where you had to go back and become a light bulb and show the key puzzle, and you have to. There are some shards where you have to go to another world, get the ability, come back to this world, that sort of thing. That's like the hardest. That's probably the hardest aspect about it.
And Spicy Panda are pointing out another tricky one where you need to be stone where you can transform into Ricky.
Oh yeah,
because Ricky can wall jump, which
you climb a wall.
Yeah.
Oh right.
I didn't know that because that's from Dreamland 3, which I never played.
Same here.
Well, not until
Dreamland 3 is a
later.
weird one. Yeah.
I would actually...
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I've never played through all of Dreamland 3, but when I was going through the collection, the Dream Collection on the Wii, that one stood out to me as kind of the weakest. It was just so... It's beautiful, but it's so slow. It's so...
It has its own vibe,
right.
for sure. And it never was that's definitely a not so favorite Kirby game, probably for all of us, I'm guessing, is Dreamland 3. And I guess that might serve as a bit of a segue into my own history with the series, because I started with the original Kirby's Dream Land. I think my parents got it for me for the original Game Boy. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how I got it, but I got it, and I fell in love immediately just with the whole aesthetic and vibe of what Kirby was. And so, yeah, I started with the very first game in the series, and then I got Kirby's Adventure on NES. Loved that game to death. And from then on, I was pretty much just a dyed-in-the-wool Kirby fan, except for what's weird about that is, though, as much as I loved Adventure, for some reason, I didn't play Dreamland 2 or 3 when they originally released. I had to go back and play them later. And I did actually make it a point to go back and play Dreamland 3, I think on Virtual Console, and 100% it. And because I wanted the history, right? I wanted to kind of have the context for how I felt about it as a game. And I agree with you guys. It's not great as Kirby games go, in my opinion. But I think part of the reason for that is less because Dreamland 3 itself isn't great. I think it's probably fine on its own. But the problem is I think it's held up against Kirby Superstar, which to my mind is still maybe my favorite Kirby game ever. It's close between that and Planet Robobot, and that's where you and I go back and forth, Derek. Yours is Planet Robobot, mine is Superstar/Superstar Ultra, but they're both so close for me.
I've never played Superstar Ultra, and who knows, that might change my mind to being that one, but I like how Planet Robobot is a complete experience. Superstar, you're going back and forth through a lot of different things, and it's great mini games. It's incredibly entertaining. It is a top 3 really Kirby game, but I don't know, I like the completeness of Planet Robobot. I love when games can kind of build upon itself, where the systems sort of interlock and everything you do kind of builds upon another system, and you don't quite get that with Superstar, but it's still, God, it's fun.
It's so good, and I love that it's kind of a cornucopia. Like it's almost kind of like a potpourri approach of like all the different kind of things Kirby can be. You've got Spring Breeze and Dynablade, which are just your standard Kirby's Dream Land-esque platformers with the Super Nintendo sheen. But then you've got stuff like the Great Cave Offensive, which is a bit of a Metroidvania almost, where it's got kind of a little more open world to explore. And then that same Metroidvania-esque concept is then transplanted in a different way with Milky Way Wishes, where you have to collect the copy abilities, and you can then have them permanently and switch between them to get to new areas and find new copy abilities. And it's all these different flavors of a Kirby platformer in one game. And then you have stuff like one-off things like Gourmet Race and the mini games and stuff, which it's just such a great overall package of different Kirby experiences that all no one of them feels too different, but they're all really interesting in their own way. And even Dynablade is a little bit different from Spring Breeze in the way that it has a world map, and there are a couple of hidden exits and stuff like Kirby's Adventure. So I just really love that game's approach, and Superstar Ultra did just make it even better. So it's really hard for me not to name Superstar as my favorite Kirby, but Planet Robobot does come so incredibly close. But to bring it back to Dreamland 3, I think that's the issue, is that it was released after Superstar, and it just felt like a step down in literally every way. And even the art style, which is beautiful in Dreamland 3, I felt like the graphics overall, they didn't quite hit the same way Superstar did. It just felt like a step down in every way, I felt.
I mean, Superstar introduced hats. That's such a major part of Kirby's character now.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. And Dreamland 3 even seemed to kind of, the copy abilities seemed to feel less interesting and cool as well. And yeah, it just felt like a step back. But it is definitely still has its own vibe, and it has its own place in Kirby's history, for sure. Now, I've seen a lot of our live audience chat talking about a particular Kirby game that we cannot go without. There can't be a Kirby discussion without this game. And that, of course, is Kirby's Dream Course, which is just a wonderful game.
It's
a wonderful
fantastic.
game.
I can do it so late, but you play it, it's fine by yourself, but you get it with a friend. It is so competitive.
It's really, I was never very good at it at all. I fully admit that. I was never good at it, but I do really like it. And it's such a clever idea because, of course, Kirby works great as a golf ball. Like, it's just, and you get the copy abilities in there and everything. It's a very creative approach to a golf game.
Amazingly, only the 4th Kirby game ever made.
Right, but that's wild. Right. Huh.
Yeah, Kirby started off with his... Kirby started off with his whole, like, career of doing pretty much everything very early on in his life, because that's the thing with Kirby games, is that he jumps out of the realm of what he usually does in a platformer very easily, and can mix things up very like very seamlessly. Like, he could be a golf ball, he could be this little of a sphere in the touch games for like Canvas Curse and such, or like Tilt and Tumble is a really unique style of a game too. They were very experimental with Kirby, and I appreciate them for that.
Same. And I feel like, look, if we can get new Pokemon Snap all these years later, why not Kirby's new Dream Course, right? Like, Nintendo's not going to name a Dream Course 2. It would be New Dream Course. I'd be down. I'd be so down for that.
Totally
like, a
down for that.
That would be so
4
cool.
players.
So, yeah.
Make it even better that it's you're beating Kirby around, but you do it with, you play as DDD. You hit him with the hammer, hit Kirby with the hammer, and that's how they team up together.
Right.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
It's
okay.
No, good.
No. Oh, I was just gonna pivot to maybe we were talking about Dreamland 3 as maybe kind of a less great Kirby experience for us, and I was going to ask you guys if there are any more Kirby games that you would kind of count among some of your less favorite ones that you wouldn't really ever feel the need to return to.
I'm sad to say this, but Rainbow Curse is...
Oh my gosh, I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Canvas Curse worked because you have the screens right there, but Rainbow Curse, you're playing it off the Wii U, and it's gorgeous. I love the art style. It's a lot of fun, but it sucks to play off the Wii U when you have this gorgeous screen in front of you. And it's just...
Yeah.
Like, maybe better if they gave you a stylus and you played off the Switch OLED. It'd probably be a little bit more fun experience in that case.
God,
but
that would be cool. Yeah.
That would be really nice.
But that is what holds it back, is that your friends, you play with your friends that are playing Waddle Dee, but they get to play off the TV and you're stuck basically with the Wii U, which at that point, well, what's the point other than access to the graphics? And it's just, I don't know. It always felt so disjointed.
That was
kind of the same issue as Star Fox Zero.
Yeah,
like
same.
Problem.
Yeah, I think that whole issue of having to look down at the gamepad the entire time, I think that's the true Canvas Curse, is that you can't look up the entire time and see how beautiful the game is for the whole duration of the game. I can look up and maybe try and do it by hand, but it's impossible. It's just one of the flaws of its design that it couldn't really fix in terms of like how you control. But
I was probably gonna mention that at some point as well. Like I say that as a massive Canvas Curse fan. I adored Canvas Curse, 100%ed it. I thought it was so fun. I loved the stylus mechanic. I thought it was just pitch perfect. But Rainbow Curse, I remember being so excited when they announced it. I'm like, oh my god, Canvas Curse is actually getting a sequel. That's great. But it didn't quite hit the same. I agree, and it was part of the reason was because you had to be looking at the gamepad the whole time, and it had a good soundtrack, which is no surprise because it's Kirby. But yeah, the game just didn't quite hit the same way. And another one that
I actually have a quick fun fact for you, Ash. I
please
don't know the artist's name, but the designer who created Paintra in Canvas Curse. I saw on Twitter the other day. They like to make eldritch art, sort of like evil, the H.P. Lovecraft type stuff, and they have done artwork of Paintra in that style. So you get that actual, almost pseudo official Kirby Abomination in that art style.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out then.
I forget the artist's name, but it's easy to look up.
I can find it. Yeah. A game that I might get a little heat for saying that I never really liked much. This is a weird one because it feels like I should love it because it's essentially a bit of another Metroidvania-esque take on Kirby, but it just didn't land with me, unfortunately. And that's Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. I have tried on 3 separate occasions to get really into this game and love it and appreciate it in the way that I feel I should. but something just doesn't quite land with me, and I always just end up dropping it. I don't know why. It's one of the very few Kirby games I've never finished, and it's just, even Squeak Squad, which is also kind of a lesser known Kirby game, I finished that. I think it was on Wii U Virtual Console, and I enjoyed it for what it was. But Amazing Mirror, just, I don't know, something doesn't quite land with me for that one, and I'm curious about how you guys feel about it.
I have never played Squeak Squad or Amazing Mirror. Now, I have watched the Runaway guys do their playthrough of Amazing Mirror. They actually hooked up 4 systems and played it together. And yeah, I can definitely see the criticisms. Like, you only have to watch it and see how it all goes. And it's cool in 4-player how you can sort of divide and conquer to get the game down quicker. Yeah. But it's also one of those things where it felt like it got really repetitious and to kind of miss the point of being a Metroidvania where there's a lot of looping if you miss out a door. It's like the map is a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The map is really confusing. That's one of the things. It's just very hard to parse out exactly what the map is really showing you.
Yeah, my first experience with this was on the Ambassador program for the 3DS. That's the only reason I played this game, and I played it all the way through to the end, and I didn't feel much after I completed it.
That was a game.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I mean, I appreciate what it was trying to do with like the 4-player concept with Kirby games. Like they were really experimental with Game Boy Advance, kind of linking co-op experiences together. But yeah, it didn't hit as much as other Kirby games in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Another one I've never played, but I kind of want to, just because I love the concept and it has some great toys based off it that just work for Kirby fans. Mass Attack. Never got the chance to try it, but it looks adorable.
You didn't? Oh, actually, I was going to mention that later as a kind of a personal favorite of mine. It's not among like Superstar or Planet Robobot status, but it is one of the most creative Kirby games I think they've ever made, and I really enjoyed it a lot, actually.
What I saw looked really adorable, and I did see that one of the mini games that you can unlock in it is an RPG, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah. And it's a really cool game. I definitely, if you get a chance to go back and play it, Derek, I highly recommend you do, because there's not really any other Kirby game like it. And it really couldn't have been done on any other platform than the one it was on, which I think is a really cool, kind of like Canvas Curse as well. It's very much attuned to the platform it's on, and I think that's, really kind of a neat twist with it.
Mm-hmm.
One game I know that will get just completely roasted if we don't bring up, of course, is Kirby Air Ride, because that's a fan.
Kirby Air Ride.
Yeah. Okay, Daniel, go for it. I'll let you take this one.
This game is something I play with too many hours with my friends, and I think a lot of people will agree that this game is Kirby Air Ride City Trial for most people.
Yeah.
I mean, the racing is obviously, it's fun still, playing the racing, the traditional races. Top Right is a cool little side game, essentially, where it's just the whole board, but just condensed down into one little area. But then there's City Trial, which I think a lot of people spend many hours on playing. But like, before I get into City Trial, just the game itself, it's very ingeniously made. You only have to press one button in the control stick in that, and they designed it so that everything works contextually with each other. Like, you press the A button to drag your machine on the ground, but that's also how you drift and how you build up boosts. It's how you interact with the environment around you, like to connect boost pads or little like buttons that you can make your own shortcuts for. And you can play with one hand, like if you wanted to. If you want to just use your left hand, the control stick and the L button also function the same way. For anybody that may need that kind of handicap. But yeah, oh my god, there's just so much potential within City Trial that it could be expanded upon, that if they wanted to re-release something in the vein of like Kirby Fighters, but just make it Kirby City Trial, like they could do that and just build upon it, make it with more characters, a larger arena to play around in. It's just something that I have a lot of memories with. And just an interesting way to make a racing game with Kirby. Just all the little air ride machines that you can control. I always use the Swerve Star, which is basically the one that looks like the Millennium Puzzle, where it stops and goes. That was weirdly my favorite. And everyone thought I was weird because I was playing the one that just would stop and go all the time. But man, yeah. What were your experiences with the Kirby Air Ride?
You know, I never got as into it. I had it and I played it and enjoyed it, but I never really quite landed with me in that same way. Like people really got into City Trial, and I enjoyed it, but it was not something that I really stuck with for a long time. And I was happy to see the concept come back in Smash 3DS with Smash Run, kind of a Smash Brothers-esque concept of City Trial, but I don't know. I don't have the same level of just sheer adoration for Air Ride and or City Trial as a lot of other Kirby fans seem to. I don't dislike it. It's just, yeah.
I'm the same way, Ash, because I this is around the time of when I started paying for games on my own. So I started really paying attention to reviews, and if it wasn't quite matching up with what I thought, I was probably going to skip it. And when I was looking at the reviews for Air Ride, everybody's like, it's fine, but it's just so simplistic that it's not going to replace Mario Kart anytime soon. And I just ended up skipping it. And honestly, probably for the best that I did, personally, because not many of my friends were interested in playing GameCube games. I could barely get them to play Mario Kart or Smash Brothers. There's no way in hell I was going to get them to play Kirby. So it just, I would just not get the full experience that City Trial provides, because I doubt it's as fun against computers. And maybe the whole unlocking trophy mechanic that Sakurai brought into his later games, like the challenge mechanic, that might have been kept me engaged a bit more than would it would otherwise, but it'd still be like, nah, I'd be missing out on the true fun of the game, which is a shame. So a re-release with online would be really cool. Kirby's done a lot of those free to play games that are just okay, but I mean, free to play Air Ride, and you can earn new air rides and other cosmetic stuff. That'd be really cool. I'd be down.
Yeah, this was definitely the beginning of, you could see Sakurai's fingerprints all over this game, because the menu, the UI, it functions a lot and feels a lot like Melee, which was also on the GameCube. And the whole checklist system, like that's where you earn all the massive board of achievements you can do, and you can earn like all different Kirby colors and other racetracks and other sort of fun little things like that. That's pretty much what kept me engaged a lot, because back then when I got into a game, I just like focused all the way into it, and I wanted to experience everything about it if it interested me at all. But yeah, I could totally see how it might not be everyone's cup of tea for a little boy.
Depending on your situation. Like if you have a ton of friends that are into it like you are, perfect. Otherwise,
yeah. Depends on your situation.
One game I do want to call out before we wrap up here, because I feel like it kind of gets forgotten because it was sandwiched between two much more popular Kirby games, I think. And I'm talking about Kirby Triple Deluxe, because it came in between Kirby's Return to Dreamland and Kirby Planet Robobot, which both I think stood out a little bit more in their own ways. And Triple Deluxe was, of course, the series' 3DS debut. And even though it kind of gets a little bit forgotten, I thought it was great. And Derek, I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, that it was at one point your favorite Kirby game.
Up until Planet Robobot released, I remember getting this game for review, playing through it, and just falling absolutely in love with it. Everything about it clicked with me. The levels were inventive. The soundtrack was great. The final boss battle was great. Just everything about it just clicked with me, to the point that I was sick. I had lost my voice.
I remember.
Completely at that point. And I was just starting to get it back, and I croaked my way through the review to have it ready for embargo, because I just loved the game that much. I was like, I need to do this, because I felt fine. It's just I couldn't talk, so I had to just croak my way out through the review. But it was so good. It was so good.
Really a great game, and as Panda Otter says in our live audience chat, the soundtrack was just phenomenal. One of the best Kirby soundtracks for sure. I still love I think it's the Fine Fields theme, or I think it's Fine Fields.
Yeah, I believe it's Fine Fields.
Level is. I love that song. It's such a great, unique take on like that first level Kirby theme. But I guess to bring things back to the present as we start to wrap up here, I think one of the reasons I'm so excited for Forgotten Land, and it feels like the excitement is really jacked up for Forgotten Land in kind of a different way, is because I will admit to kind of having lost the plot with Kirby a little bit more recently with all the spin-off games that he's been primarily focused on, like your Battle Royales, your Blowout Blast, your
fighters, your
Clash,
DDD
Kirby Fighters 2.
Yeah,
it's been so focused on these kind of more bite-sized spin-off experiences, which that's fine, but that's not really what I'm here for. I'm here for those mainline Kirby games. And so I love Kirby as much as I ever have. Like Kirby himself, he's my favorite Nintendo character ever, by far. It's not even close. But I've just kind of like, between that, like all those spin-off games and Star Allies kind of just being fine and not great, I'm ready for another just really good, cool mainline Kirby game. And Forgotten Land seems to be the exact opposite, whereas Star Allies was as safe as humanly possible, as predictable as possible.
Yeah.
Forgotten Land, it's our first mainline 3D Kirby game. It's Kirby doing something brave and new. And I think that might be one of the reasons I'm so particularly hyped for Forgotten Land. But how do you guys feel about some of the more some of that more recent focus with Kirby just kind of being in a bunch of spin-off, more bite-sized experiences?
Kirby. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed how Kirby's kind of stagnated in certain aspects as far as, you know, coming out on bigger home console releases, but yet we get something like Star Allies, and Planet Robot was definitely the most memorable title that had come out since, that's in the 3DS era. But with Forgotten Land, like, you see so many people, like, they're excited about a Kirby game. Like, Steve's excited about Forgotten Land, and he doesn't even play Kirby games.
He's not even a Kirby game. Yeah, you're not a Kirby fan.
But yeah, it's so cool. It's kind of like the whole thing with Pokemon Legends Arceus, where the fans are coming together and new fans are coming in being like, I'm really interested in this game. I want to try this out because they're doing something new. It's a new formula on something we're familiar with, but like, what is it going to do to hold our attention? Like, what is it going to introduce to us that we're not expecting still? And even if it's something that we kind of do expect, because when I play the demo, it's like, yeah, this is a 3D Kirby game, but that's totally exactly what I wanted anyways. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing like where the conversation goes from here on forward with Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yeah, up until the point that we saw the mouthful mode, I was just like, well, it's basically, you know, Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, Return to Dreamland, whatever, in 3D. That's its gimmick. Never thought it would have another gimmick on top of that. That's not just it's 3D. So that was a nice little twist. And as far as the other games, I've barely touched them. They're all, you know, a lot of them were free to play, so I checked out a little bit, but it's just like, nah, I'm gonna skip past it. Kirby has always been experimental with a lot of his spin-offs, but those all felt like, you know, leftovers, because they're just slightly expanded from the modes that were in Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, so they weren't quite as interesting. Not in the same way that, like, another game we kind of failed to talk about, Kirby's Epic Yarn. Not traditional Kirby gameplay whatsoever. Not hard whatsoever, because you cannot die. But the game is so freaking charming and lovable, and more of that.
It's so
that, please, if you're going to be experimental.
So cozy. That's a perfect word for it, Daniel. And yeah, there's definitely a line drawn between like the bigger Kirby spin-offs like Mass Attack and Epic Yarn, and then the kind of more free-to-play, bite-sized, minigame focused Kirby spin-offs like Kirby Fighters and such, that those are less interesting to me. But I love the mainline spin-offs like, again, Epic Yarn and Mass Attack, that are full games in and of themselves. And I'm just, I'm so glad that we're finally seeing a swerve back to that more kind of like, okay, here's a big tentpole Kirby release, instead of like, oh, okay, here are a few free-to-play mini games that happen to feature Kirby, you know. And not to disparage any of those games, like I actually did play quite a bit of Kirby Fighters 2 for a Fight of Founders session a couple of months ago, and it's a good game. It's just not what I want out of Kirby, you know. It's just not that big, meaty mainline experience I want out of Kirby. And yeah, I think that's why we're so uniquely excited for Forgotten Land. I would be excited for another 2D Kirby game, especially if it did something differently from Star Allies. I'd be perfectly hyped for that. But this is something new and bold that Kirby hasn't done before, and I really hope they go all in on the Eldritch God final boss for this one because, Kirby 64, we know, 0-2, that was a really cool final battle because you were fighting this Eldritch abomination in a 3D context. I want to see Kirby go all the way with that in the modern era with HD visuals and
I don't know. I'm trying to imagine how this beast pack can become like that. I don't know.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I'm not sure they'll do that. But
Kirby Star Allies took it to cosmic proportions as far as like horror abominations and expanding the lore. Which there is a lot of Kirby lore if you look into it. There is. But I'm very excited to see where this whole like a post-apocalyptic location falls into that.
Right.
It's definitely a good idea to anytime you fight a boss, press pause, read their lore because there's a lot you'll find.
Always.
Even when you're doing Arena and True Arena, you'll get more information. Like there is some dark, depressing stuff in the lore of both Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot.
Yeah, especially the final bosses. Like Daniel, you gotta go. I wouldn't dare spoil it for you, but you gotta go finish Planet Robobot, man. Trust
me. I'll find a copy.
It's totally worth it. Nice. Well, I think that does pretty much bring us to the end. Is there anything else that either of you want to bring up specifically about our favorite pink puffball / Godslayer?
Kirby Right Back At You is the best Kirby game. It's only cutscene, but it brings us Western DDD.
Right, okay. and I still I never understood why they gave DDD that kind of southern drawl. that there, Kirby. Like I never understood that. It's so weird.
They made Rick Australian.
So they did like that there Kirby. Meta Knight.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
At least they kept Kirby just as Poyos.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's end things on. I want to ask you guys a question. I'm gonna ask you both to make a prediction because Panda Otter here in our live audience chat, right out is predicting that Elfilin is evil. Elfilin, of course, being the companion character for Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Do you think do you agree? Is Elfilin evil or not? What do you guys think?
I'm going to declare right here and now, no. Elfilin's not evil. It's equivalent to Rainbow Curse because you had a cute little sidekick as well. Difference was they were with you at all the time. Marx wasn't with you at all times. Trying to think of his name from Return of Dreamland. Magalore wasn't with you at all the times. Yeah. If they're hanging out, then you might be a little bit worried. But nah, I don't think Elfilin's evil.
Yeah, I don't think so either. What about you, Daniel?
So, this game, whatever big bad is behind the Beast Tribe or whatever it is that they're called, there's something behind there, and they're looking for something. They're collecting all these DDDs because they're looking for a certain something. And there's a part of the game where you see Elfilin was also in that. So, whatever they're looking for, like Elfilin has like this last component that this big bad needs, and so Kirby's actually guiding Elfilin all the way to them, and then at the very end they're gonna use Elfilin's soul or whatever it is inside of there, and it's gonna become and then it's gonna become like the final key that unlocks the Eldritch horror that waits as the final boss. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Elfilin's the good, the good of this thing, but it leaves it incomplete. So you need to.
I see. Okay.
If that happens, I'm gonna clip this and come back to it. But
I hope, dude, if you nailed that,
you basically just explained the villain of Sonic Unleashed.
Oh my god, I did.
True enough, you sure did. Yeah. But all right, well, there we've drawn our lines in the sand. Those are our predictions. We'll definitely have to see how it all goes once we actually play Forgotten Land in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that does bring us to the end of our looking back on Kirby discussion. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, as always, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Every little bit really does help. Also, check us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming, where we offer a variety of tiers, such as our very popular live audience tier, which allows you to watch us as we record discussions like this very one live, flubs and all. But that's it for us today. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Till we meet again.